All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to this episode of Show and Tell After Dark, where we talk about all things art, all things music, all things Boston. My name is Cricket Smith. I am one of the hosts. I have my friend to the left of me, Tatas. What's up, Tatas?
What up?
How are you doing? I have my friend to the right of me, Miss Ariel Panesi. You guys might remember her from the finance episode, and Angie to the right of Ariel from the
Toxic masculinity and toxic femininity episode.
that episode.
Yeah.
But tonight we're going to be talking about being biracial. I am the only one on this group that's not biracial.
Purebred.
So you should get started because you
Mudblood
got some
Only
insight.
Okay. Actually, which one of you guys? So, actually, can I get you guys to go around and just talk about what exactly are you?
Yes, yes. What's your race?
The infamous question.
Yes,
What exactly
yes.
are you?
So I am Irish, Italian, and black.
Irish, Italian, and black.
Yes.
So I am basically exactly what she is, Irish, Italian, and black, but the Irish is like 0.3%, and the rest is Italian and black.
I got 0.3% Irish, as a matter of fact.
Okay, you go, Cricket.
Biracial.
We mix. We all mix on this.
Girl.
And so you grew up with both sides of the family, or?
So yes, to give a little bit more context, my mother is Irish and Italian. She's only second generation on both sides. My grandfather was born here by a young mother coming from Ireland. She ended up dying at a young age, and he was adopted by another Irish family.
Wow.
And then he met my grandmother, who is full-blooded Italian. I'm sorry. My great-grandparents came from Italy, got married at home, came here, had their family, and then my family's house was like a revolving door for Italian family to come here, get established, and, you know, so... You know, that's my mother's side. And then my father's side, even though my father is black, I was lucky enough to have a cousin who was a genealogist.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have family records for all my family lineage from my dad back to like
Must be nice.
1842.
Right.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So,
That's great.
yeah. So
That's a
I'm
blessing.
blessed. I'm blessed
Yeah, that's
to
a
know
blessing.
Yeah.
all sides of it. And, you know, that...
Because then you get reparations. If you can prove,
Really?
Yeah, if you can, you have to prove like slate, like you guys.
Reparations from
Well,
who?
I'm gonna have to look into that. I was
No,
looking at being
well-
an Italian citizen because
Oh, yeah?
you
You
have
mean
the
like when they
opportunity
pop up one day, or?
If reparations ever came through, like you would have
Okay.
to prove through paperwork that you were descendant from actual slavery.
Yep. And
Wow, I didn't know that.
thank God for ancestry. I didn't
So
get
my
no.
family being poor as hell in the middle of the South and like dirt floors that don't count for nothing.
Nah, just being a nigga doesn't count.
Okay,
Got to be able to track it, I guess.
You gotta track it.
my niggaology.
I'm sure you can, though.
Gotta get that up.
I'm sure you can.
I guess my family knew what was up, and they wanted their reparations.
said
when-
respirations?
reparations when they came around.
That's what's up.
So
We all trying to breathe. I got it.
And you, were you around both sides of your family?
No. So I have the more classic story of what society thinks they know about mixed kids.
Right.
So
Okay.
I have a white mama and a black daddy. You know, typical. My black daddy's from the South. My white mama's from right here in Massachusetts. I was born in the South. I was born in Columbia, South Carolina. I lived there till I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my mama realized that she wasn't as for the niggas as she thought she was, and up and moved us back to
That says nigga as it
Massachusetts.
gets right there. It's
And
South
here we
Carolina.
And you were raised in like what type of community? Were you raised in like a?
So I grew up not born, but raised in Brockton. So I've been in a melting pot environment, you know, where you got Haitians, you got Cape Verdeans, Puerto Ricans, Peruvians, you know what I mean? You have a wide variety of people. So I grew up in that type of environment, and I also grew up in a neighborhood that was, you know, I'd say affluent, maybe is the word
Yeah,
for
that
it.
is the word.
Yeah, to say like I had my black neighbor Virgil, you know, and his wife, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I did have white neighbors in certain areas, you know, because that was the norm. But we were one of the very few families that moved in to the neighborhood that started the color. But again, we were a mixed family. We were new, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
The
right.
90s was different. So for me and my brother, who are actually Irish twins, We're only 13 months apart.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So we grew up in that environment of, having our white friends because our elementary school was in that kind of neighborhood, but then our middle school was in like closer to like downtown or a different area. So everybody went. And then by the time you got to Brockton High, that's 5,000 kids.
Yeah.
Whoa, in one school?
My graduating class was 909.
So you
What?
specifically didn't feel like you stood out at all?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. I did not feel like I stood out. I stood out in college, Curry College.
Is that like what, super Caucasian?
What?
Is that super Caucasian? Like,
Caucasian. I mean, it's right on Blue
like
Hill
next to
Ave,
Milton,
but it's
right?
at the top of Blue Hill Ave. And if anybody's from Boston, you know the difference of night and day of Upper Milton area on Blue Hill Ave versus down
Yeah.
at the,
Exactly.
So it was a very culture shock for me, but I equated that also not only to, race, but class.
Right.
Oh.
Definitely.
That's a different conversation about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
And that's drastically different from you, right? Because you completely stood out.
That's what's up.
Talk about it.
Love the contrast.
So, when you say like, what type of community am I from? Do you mean like financially or like I grew up with like poor people? If that's what we're okay. So like I have the complete opposite. Your parents are still together. Your parents owned a house. I'm assuming?
33 years. Yeah, they bought
Yeah.
their house like.
No, my mom is a single white woman who like embodies like exactly that of which people assume a single white woman with black babies would embody. That like my mom is a single white woman who has a ton of flavor that nobody knows where it came from.
Oh, like
Girl,
season?
that flavor.
Yeah, just so seasoned.
Saucy.
So seasoned.
So
So saucy.
seasoning. Spicy.
So spicy.
Spicy Italian?
So spicy. And she was a single mother who, created the Reading Rainbow. I'm the darkest. Then we have my brother who's like way lighter than me. He's like your tone. And then we have my sister who is just like a full-blooded Caucasian.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know what happened, but obviously it just kept not working out. So she was like, maybe a little lighter. Maybe
Okay.
maybe it's got to be more like me. Not the kids, just the men. She loves us all very much.
Wow.
And then so I grew up in.
Are you the oldest?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And your sister's the youngest?
My sister's the youngest.
Okay.
How many
I
siblings?
see.
On both sides or just my mom's?
Just your mom's.
Okay, so my sister actually is no longer the youngest. So I grew up with 3 siblings. I grew up as one of 3. I grew up
Okay.
as the oldest. I have a brother who's 18 months younger than me, and I have a sister who's 18 months
nice.
younger than him.
Okay.
Did you like being close in age?
As a child, absolutely not. It was like actually pretty detrimental to my to like or what I believed to be pretty detrimental to my
Right.
upbringing. But now that I'm older, like I don't even understand how people didn't grow up with siblings that close to them. in
Right.
age. Like, Cricket, just so you know, it might seem like craziness at first, but like your kids will thank you so much for having
actually,
had each
as
other
an adult. Yeah.
as an adult. Like I would not change it now for anything in the world. But at the time, I'm like, what do you mean I got to take this little motherfucker everywhere? I
Right,
go?
right.
This sucks.
Like
This
it-
sucks.
literally. But then it was now I'm like so grateful that I had them.
And you guys all went to the same school?
Me and my brother and my sister. So me and my brother and my sister went to the same school as children. But again, like I said, I am the darkest of the 3, and my sister is 100% Caucasian. We also have different last names.
So people didn't know you.
Nobody
were
had
necessarily-
no
Yep,
idea that we were
absolutely,
siblings.
Yep.
That's
really?
dope.
Yep.
It would only come up when
Conversation.
racist white
and
people like to say a lot of racist white things
Ow.
around a little white girl.
Oof, I cannot
And my
imagine.
sister would have to constantly be like, so my sister and brother are black, and we can fight right here
I
if you
cannot
want to.
imagine
Oh, really?
the stuff
Yeah.
that they would say.
So
Goodness
like
gracious.
she went through a lot. I feel like she has a lot of her own trauma from just
Right.
like being
Yeah,
the sibling
defending.
of and like just being like, damn, bro, these are my people.
Right.
Like when once realizing like
or the
what-
comfortability that they felt,
Right,
actually
right.
saying something to her and then realizing, like,
Oh,
you know what I
As
mean?
we
Ooh,
get deeper
ooh.
into it, though, like I played a very critical role in white people in their comfort level of saying things that they should not say around people of color, and how complacent I was for the first 17 years of my life in racism.
So, okay. Growing up, you're like you're the only like black person in like, your
Yes.
school?
In my school?
Well, I don't know. Like,
Oh, hell no.
No?
In my school, no. The only black person in my family, I was one of 3 or 4 mixed kids in my school, though. growing up.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Somerville, and like
Okay,
it's
okay,
not
okay.
that it's not diverse. It's very, very, very diverse. But
Yeah.
like you just said, in the '90s, mixed kids were just not a thing. Like
It just wasn't a
diversity
thing.
was a thing. Like you had your Hispanic kids,
Right.
you had
Yep.
your Cape Verdean kids, you had your Jamaican kids, you had your Salvadorian kids, you had your white kids, you had your black kids. What you mean your mama and your daddy is two different colors?
Yeah,
Like in the '90s,
yeah.
it was like unheard of. Like when I got to high school, in a school of 600 or so kids, probably more, it's just me and 4 other kids.
Wow.
Did you get made fun of for being
Huh?
biracial? I did. Someone told me that.
Oh, yeah.
Someone told me that my genes were confused.
Ooh.
Somebody said my mama
Were they
enslaved
white?
my daddy.
They were black.
That's
Crazy.
I had somebody. Did you hear me?
No.
I said somebody said my mama enslaved my daddy.
Oh shit.
We was about to fight then, but they also said that kind of stuff to my brother too, because he was a male perspective that
Yeah.
like I'm the woman. Some people may not necessarily say that to me,
Right.
or I was very consciously aware, but my brother just men I don't feel like necessarily see it as much as like maybe women do.
Yeah.
That's just my perspective, because my brother hung out and grew up.
Did you have the
with
Chris
white
Brown
kids.
experience?
What is that? I've never heard that.
So, like, to me, the Chris Brown experience is like mixed men who are not necessarily. So, like, I'm dark for a mixed woman. Like, most
Yeah.
mixed women are not my complexion. A lot of people can't tell that I am mixed, like, just straight up. Like,
Right.
upon meeting me to begin with, like, they're like, you have white? Mm-hmm. So, like, but my brother, on the other hand, is mixed, and it's very obvious that he's mixed. And I feel like his experience of being mixed was a completely and totally different experience, whereas he was glorified for being mixed amongst, like,
Yeah.
his,
Yep.
like every girl in the world wanted
right.
to
Yeah.
my
Right,
brother,
right,
which
right.
is what I call the Chris Brown experience, because
Okay. That makes sense.
I thought
I've
it
never
was
heard
like
that before.
getting beat
makes
up.
The Chris
that does
Brown
make sense.
experience.
Sorry.
Is Chris
You know
Brown
me.
mixed?
Yeah, I actually have no idea what Chris Brown
neither.
I
is,
think he's
but
light-skinned
his
black.
light-skinnedness, his light-skinned
Just
awarded
to-
him a privilege within
Right.
his community of like being like,
Drooled over.
Exactly.
You
Wait, so you never
fantasize
got?
about.
So you're saying that you guys never got fetishized? Like no one ever saw you as exotic?
no. So I've been fetishized. I've been
Yes.
fetishized my entire life. That's not the thing. It's that I've been fetishized by men. One on the low. Fetishization of black women is not something that's just like out loud and proud.
That
like
part.
You're just walking, especially like mixed kids. Like it's not like people are like, oh my god, bro, that mixed girl. Like no,
Right.
It's like
No.
some little white boy who's in my science class who really, really liked black women but would never say anything, and then
Right.
he in my DMs in the middle of the night talking
Exactly.
about. So like,
Yeah.
do you want to like hang out and
Yeah.
like not tell anybody?
Right,
like,
right,
because
right.
we don't need to tell anybody. That's the
You
fetishization.
really have that? Did not tell anybody?
You want to go through my phone right now? There's still There's still men in my phone that are like, we don't gotta talk about it. And it's like, those days are over, honey.
We gonna pray
I
for
don't
them
do
though.
that shit.
Those who are there, you know who you are.
Right.
Like, no lie.
But
So yeah, I was definitely fetishized, but like for black men or mixed men, it's mixed men or black men that end up being like a lighter tone. I feel like it's much more open and accepted and like
It's
almost
true.
glorified. Like,
Seriously?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
my little brother's actually. My stepdad is white. My stepdad has been my stepdad since I've been like
you've grown up
8
with him.
years
yeah,
old.
You know him.
I have a
Right.
white stepdad
Yeah.
too.
And my little brother is mixed, and he just turned 20, and you can tell he's mixed. Clearly, you can tell that he's mixed, but his perspective is different because his mom is black and his dad is white, and
That's a different. That's a
It's a-
difference
it's-
too.
it's a
That's completely
different
different that we
dynamic.
don't talk about. Like,
Yes.
who is the?
The white parent and who's
Yep,
the black
who's the
parent.
black parent.
the-
And
I was
that's
gonna
a
say
big
who's the
difference.
lighter
Huge
parent
difference.
versus because
You both have white
Especially
moms?
if you were,
Yep, they got
especially
white moms.
we have white moms, but especially when your parents are together versus your parents are divorced. Like,
Absolutely.
it's a huge, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes all of the difference in what you feel about
Yeah.
yourself, your culture, and yeah. So like
It
I was raised
totally
by
does.
a white mother in a majority white household, surrounded by Italian people, raised by an Italian stepfather who also had a very large
Italian
well-off Italian family.
Yeah, that
While
family-
the black side of me was almost obsolete because it was all the way in South Carolina and had very little to do with my upbringing.
right.
That sounds like a good way to get identity issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And it's different because when I talk to my little brother about just his experience, because we've never talked about it before, because my mom is not like the type of mom to be like black. Like my mom is from the South, of course, but with that, you don't it's you got colorism, you got racism,
That
you got
part.
not wanting to be. And I love my mom to death, but it's the truth. I don't feel like she's a proud black woman, and I feel like
You don't feel like your mom's a proud black woman?
no.
Oh.
I'm one of 6. My older sister is 33. My little brother is 20, and
And you said your mom's from the South?
my mom is from the South.
Yeah,
hell,
I
I'm
can-
from the South.
Yeah.
But
I can hear it.
just it's and when you see a mixed boy down south, like it don't matter what race you is, black, white, brown, green,
Yeah, the South's
you jumping
different.
over, you getting jumped on. But even when I talked to him about this episode, he said that he didn't realize that he was mixed until he was 9 years old, and he had one older black brother and he had 4 older black sisters.
Oh.
So him being the youngest and him growing up in a 2-parent household, because we didn't have our dad, you know, he was the only one out of all 6 of us that grew up in the same house as their dad. And so not only was his upbringing different, his
way of outlook on life was a lot different.
his
And things
outlook
like
on
that.
life, his outlook on family.
Because it's a different dynamic when a black son,
black
is with a
son.
white man.
Yes.
Or a black father, a
Yeah.
white father. I'm sorry to say.
It's
You said with a white father?
It's with a white father.
yeah, with a white dad.
Well,
Completely different.
so I was
For
just
her.
explaining for her experience because
For her
again,
brother's experience.
because as a mixed kid, or mixed kids all the time, we actually have this kind of conversation, and it's beautiful that y'all are bringing it to it. And somebody was asking earlier, like on the side, they were like, "Well, why are you guys having this conversation? Like, don't you think we're past this?" And I'm like, "Well,
Absolutely not.
not absolutely not, but it's like at this point where we're at, where the last 5 years, I'll give us 5 years in the black community during COVID, Black Lives Matter, all
Yes.
these things that have happened, you know, it's opened up conversations that are uncomfortable. And this
Right.
is another conversation that we don't necessarily have, or a platform to have it on. Because I say it all the time, like, or I was saying it before, they're like, what's your outlook on like being biracial? I said, I'm not white enough for my white friends, and I'm not black enough for my black friends. That's what I felt
And I feel
growing
like
up.
You can get that. You can
That's
get
from
that
growing-
conclusion
from growing up.
Almost any person who is biracial.
Yeah, that's what my
Absolutely
brother
say
said
that.
too. Same thing.
Yep.
He said the exact same thing.
Yep.
The most issues that happen with being biracial just happened like between like elementary school to like maybe high school.
Yeah, no, agreed. So like, when I say we're not past that, what I mean is like, we may be past that in the sense that like society has welcomed biracial people to the table, but like biracial people have not welcomed biracial people to the table yet. We are still dealing with it internally. Like, biracial people have a lot to sort through when it
Yep.
comes to identity crisis
Yep.
throughout life.
Absolutely.
And you know, I
Speaking on identity issues, like what type of identity issues?
I mean,
it starts with the you're not black enough for your black friends and you're not white enough for your white friends. That's like
Which one do you mostly identify like with? Which
now.
side?
to be honest, I
Or-
always thought I was. It was like I was cool. I was in a different genre. I was like, I'm mixed. You know what I'm saying? I get to
Oh.
be part of both parties.
She thinks she's better than us because
no,
she's
it's
different.
not. No, it's not better than people because I've been in situations where I wasn't even accepted by my black community. And women, because that's the colorism and that's what
Right.
society
Yep.
puts on us, like the light skin and
Yes.
whatever versus dark skin. And there's no beef between us. I was an innocent little girl and people didn't want to play with me because, you know, they just saw me, you know, come over, big personality, big, beautiful smile.
Right.
Maybe but that's
Right.
the pretty or light skin privilege, but my brother didn't have that problem because boys don't have that problem. Or I didn't feel growing up that my brother had problems going out just to be strangers. And again, we're talking the 90s. It was very different. You'd go to the court and be like, can I play or whatever? You know what I mean? Or a girl's
He's
like,
the
can
same
I play with you in
complexion?
the sandbox? What?
He's the same complexion.
Actually, my brother is a little bit darker than me.
Okay.
My brother's just slightly a hair. Like, this is me for a tan, actually, right now. So this is my brother a little bit darker. So, you know.
So you're saying that you were always in a different genre, but you never like identified more with one side?
It wasn't until I went to college and I experienced things that I had experienced. One little tragedy was somebody put a swastika on my door.
Oh shit.
Yeah, in my dorm room. Somebody I like that lived in my building or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was just a culture shock. But at the end of the day, that experience taught me that I'm black above all else.
Right.
Under the
Okay.
Jim Crow laws, whatever my daddy is,
Right,
I am. I
right.
have his last name. You know what I mean? That's the bigger gene that runs. I'm 50, 25, 25. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't talk about the other like genealogy of what happened back during like slavery and stuff. But again, when we're talking my parents, that's what it is. You know what I mean? Who I look at every day is a black man.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's, I think, later in life. And then I realized my light privilege, you know, and I actually use it for good within my community. Because, not to put my whole government last name or anything like that, but my last name is O'Neill, and that came from my father. So when you see my name on a resume, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting in just by my name. I know that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not naive. They see O'Neill and they're like, oh, an Irish girl, or, you know. Then they see me and they, because you guys were all confused, named that, you know, nationality. They're like, what are you? And most times I know I'm just sometimes filling a quota.
Right.
Let's not like,
Whew.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I know I'm filling a
That's just
multicultural
deep.
like quota.
But
You
the
know
fact
what I'm
that you
saying?
say that you even know that is crazy.
But I'm aware of it because in my dynamic of growing up, I had my mother and I had my father. So my mother allowed my father to parent us and teach us things, and it was just as important as having his family around as it was for having her family around.
That's great.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
like,
beautiful.
But it wasn't, you know, then we go through things about black family, like when the matriarch dies, people separate. So
Right, right,
So when
right.
it comes to showing up and family, my mama's family, the Italian people are who show up for me day in and day out. They always say baby's kids go to the mama's side anyway. But one beautiful thing that happened, because my family is all Italian women, not men. There's real, my father's the only black man,
Yeah.
only man on my mama's side. Okay. So, but all the women in my family were getting together on FaceTime calls, and we did it for my grandmother who's in her 90s. But it turned into these conversations that we had about, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement, how they could show up for me and my family, or just black people in general, you know, and what they could do in their whiteness.
That's a blessing.
Yep.
That's a blessing.
No, seriously.
That's a
like,
blessing.
I'm lucky. My mother's sister, like my closest aunt, she has been beating the streets for Boston public schools her entire adult career. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll never forget this lady showed me a video or website. You remember AOL dial-up back in the day? She showed me a website about abolishing the N-word, and it just got me. Like, like Easter, she's like, I need to show you this. And she pulls it up, and it's like a montage about why we should like abolish the N-word.
That's what's up.
That was like crazy. So again, my dynamic from hers is very contrast.
I love the
because-
contrast.
But my grandmother raised her 4 daughters to love all people. So when you're talking like Italian Catholic, like that's the way that she did it. Again, her husband was Irish. What do you call it? Orphan. So you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
So they
right,
already
right,
had
right.
that own like,
Yeah.
you know, love is blind, or
Yeah.
like they're gonna take care of everybody. So
Right, right.
and my mother's 4 sisters, one married a black man, one married a Bermudian, one married a rock star or like a singer, and one married like a biker.
Oh,
It was
nice.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's
The
why I tell you,
diversity.
the diversity is crazy.
And for you, which side do you mostly identify with?
So,
Wait, do you know your dad? Have you met your dad?
Oh,
Okay.
hell yeah.
Okay.
Me and my daddy are like this.
Okay. Word.
We are so close. Yeah.
Word.
Are you guys like the same?
Huh?
Are you guys the same?
I am. My mama tells me every day, "You are your daddy's child. You are your daddy's child." Me and my daddy are really close. But so I have a white mom, but I have a white mom who is a very, very, very different type of white than the. Y'all grew up.
I have a black mother.
Okay, I get that. But y'all grew up. We know you have a black mother. Ain't nobody trying to take away from you that you got a black mama. Y'all grew up in places with poor people. And everybody got that, like, one white poor family in the hood that, like, doesn't even know that they don't really, that they're not black, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they're,
yeah.
like, so, we have the same exact life except for I don't have your skin color. Like, that, like, they genuinely don't know that they're not black.
It's true.
So, like, that's my mom. My mom is an Italian woman, but she grew up dirt poor with a single mom with 3 siblings, where my grandmother worked 2 jobs, and then my grandmother was a CNA, and then my grandmother went to nursing school, and like, then she moved to the South and was, like, basically adopted by my dad's family, and because she showed up pregnant, and then she had me, and, like, my mom's, like, connection to blackness runs, like, not not on a level of fetish. Like
Love.
So
the
my
community
mom,
brought-
there is a
loved
picture
her.
of my mom in the 70s at only 2 years old that sits on my grandmother's mantle, and it's like her entire Italian family. And then it's my mama. And my mama in the 70s has this tiny, black as motherfucking night baby doll in her arms. Because back in the day, there was only one black baby doll on the shelf.
And she
it was
got
literally
it.
this color.
Yeah.
And my
Oh,
grandmother
goddamn.
was like, my grandmother tells me the story, and she's like, we're at Toys R Us. There's all these fucking babies, 900 babies, one black baby doll. What does your 2-year-old mom say? I want this one. And my grandmother's like,
So cute.
you sure you want that one? And she's like,
Yep.
I want this one. They get to the register. The woman at the register is white.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, sweetie, you sure you don't want like a doll that looks like you?
Oh,
So
shit.
my mom's
Hell
I
no.
want this one. After having just already told my grandmother twice that she wants this one. And like, my mom rocked with that my entire life. My mom was not, so like I might not have had my dad's side of the family right there with me, but
Yeah.
my mom did everything in her mother effing power to be
That's
as
amazing.
culturally aware as she possibly could. Like my mom, we would be in freaking Market Basket, bro. And of course, there'd be a little black girl and her mama walking down the aisle, and of course her hair was slayed because black moms know what to do with their black kids' hair. And here come my mama dragging me by the arm, running down the aisle to yell at this mom because it was a tradition that didn't
Absolutely.
exist.
Absolutely.
What do you put in your daughter's hair? What do you put in your daughter's hair? Where'd you get those bows? Where do you get the little bar rats at the bottom? My
She
mom
wasn't
always
ashamed
braided
to
and always
ask.
slayed my hair. I was lotioned and oiled from the day I was born
Oh,
until the day
she
I
was
died.
She put.
Yes.
You know what that is? That is putting your ego and pride aside for love.
My mom never ever.
That's what that is.
My mom spent my entire life trying to convince me that being black was a beautiful thing because at the end of the day, I was raised in an all-white family.
Right,
And
right.
like, she would be like, "But this is beautiful," and I'd be like, "But I want to look like you. I want to be like you.
Oof.
You're my mommy. Like,
Yeah.
I want to look like you, and I want straight hair like yours." And my mom would be like, "No." The lady at my school was like, "Well, you could perm it," and like then explained to me what a perm was.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, "Oh my God, there's a way for me to get straight hair." And
Yeah.
my mom's like, "It will never happen.
Yeah.
You are never
Yeah.
getting your hair." So like,
make you feel
I
happy.
really was a kid who. So
That's
this
identity
is,
issues.
But that's something.
huh?
That's identity issues. Right
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
No,
I had
because-
no, it is.
Well, no, because we could talk about.
If you're trying to straighten.
No,
your
we
hair-
could talk about the whole black community, the women black community. Chris Rock made a whole movie about this, okay? So a women in like, or the stigma of like being raised and like when your hair gets straight for the first time, that is of black culture, not only just mixed culture. I just want to say that. Go watch Chris Rock's movie.
Well, what I'm
What is it
saying,
called? Good
what
hair?
I'm saying
But
is
for
that
me
Good hair.
personally, it was an identity
you're,
crisis.
yeah, because you're saying
Like,
that you
for
have
me
curly hair.
personally, I wanted to look like my mom, and my wanting to straighten my hair, and also like Chris Rock's movie is adorable, but also like black women wanting to straighten their hair comes from the same exact identity. Like it's not
Yeah.
for black women, it's not an identity crisis. It's a like I'm trying to
Society.
assimilate in a way that will allow me. Like we have the Crown Act
yeah.
now. Like that has nothing. That's like just like white people being racist in jobs and in society, and like black women trying to assimilate.
But yeah, I'm Filipino, black, and white. Or no, Filipino, black, and Italian.
And which
Filipino, black,
which
black,
parent is which?
But yeah, my dad's white and my mom's black.
Black mother. Black mother club.
Yeah.
The only two.
So
But-
who's
but what I was gonna say about being mixed is like I just think it's like double the pressure. Do you get what I mean?
Facts.
Like just like hearing you guys and things like that's why I wanted to like kind of like get into the conversation. But just in general, I think it's just double the pressure.
Can I ask you a question? So, they were saying like I'm not black enough for my black side, and I'm not. Yeah.
I'm not white enough for my white friends, and I'm not black enough for my black friends.
Personally, I don't have that. So I'm half Samoan and I'm half Haitian.
I feel like Tata has a
Wow.
completely
So
and
you're-
totally different
so
experience
you're
than most
Asian
mixed
as
kids,
well.
though.
Yeah. Actually, I sometimes actually forget. Like they had like a Asian Pacific month. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh
yep,
yeah,
yep.
I am part of that.
That's right after.
But most of my Samoan side is like in California. Like, there's no Samoans in Boston. But I was gonna say that like I feel like what you were saying, that's like. Do you have that? Because for me, I don't feel like that. Because I feel like I don't have two sides that are like fighting each other. Like black and white are like.
It's not. Wait a second.
But like,
it's not fighting each other. It's being in these certain environments where I would like to be myself, and then like again in my upbringing and things that would be said to me. Like we were joking, but it was like serious. Like
Yeah.
you know, I like country, I like alternative, I
Yeah, me
like
too.
rock, and
So I
I'd be
used
in
to.
certain environments or whatever. But this is again, I'm talking back.
but check
in
this
my
out though.
upbringing.
Check this out though. Like when I say fighting each other, people can say, "Oh, that's some white people shit. That's some black people shit."
Right.
Those things are like polar
Right.
opposites. You
Right.
know what I mean? There's not people saying like, "Oh, that's some Samoan shit. That's some Haitian shit." At least for me.
Right, it's very different.
It is unique. Oh, sorry. But like, so I work at Showcase Cinemas in Randolph. I don't know if I should be putting this out there. Either.
we can
that's
bleep it
why-
out. We can bleep it out. It's fine.
But so there's like a lot of young people that come in and start working there, and it's just crazy when you start like working at like I don't know who I was talking to about this, but like there's like tier of work. So and I've also worked in like most of these tiers too, but like restaurants are like restaurants are like food, which is like fast food and things like that, and McDonald's and all that. I feel like they all fall in the same category of they're not the same pace, but they're like fast paced as well. Because like if you work at like Uno's and things like that in the back of in the kitchen, it's very very fast paced. They want you to do a lot of things like on point and things like that.
Yeah.
And then basically what I was just trying to get to is like the movie theater is kind of like amusement park level. Like it's like they have a lot of freedom. Like for instance, like when you work there, like they give you a lot of responsibility, but at the same time you get to have like kind of a lot of character. Like whereas when you go to like an amusement park, you see a lot of people who are like manning the stuff and doing all the things, and it seems like they're like very responsible. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they have like a lot of like freedom and things like that. But we're given that freedom, but like they don't tell us that. Do you get what I'm saying? Like we just get the job and like we get the outfits and we feel like we have the freedom, but we're not told like we have the freedom to like like be responsible, like I don't know, things like that. Like how I was just saying all of those things, like you know what I mean? I guess that kind of feeling. But anyways, what I was talking about with the new people and things like that, there'll be new people that come in and like new ethnicities and things like that, and people will say the same thing, like it's unique and things like that, like like it's unique to have that type of ethnicity.
So have you gotten fetishized before?
But yeah, probably, yeah.
Like,
I
he's
went off
exotic.
like on a whole tangent too, and I was explaining what I was just explaining. I do that a lot, like go off on like
Oh, no problem.
tangents and stuff. But yeah.
How is it being a black and Asian person? I feel like you don't even see those mixes a lot. Do you?
We're black and Asian.
Blasians?
So
I do. I see them a lot.
I do.
More than
I feel like
totally.
a newer introduction, like a newer addition to the mixed pot. I know a ton of Blasians, but those Blasians are like 17 and under. I don't know a ton of Blasians my age.
Oh, interesting.
They're diamonds in the rough, but
I
when you
basically
find them, they're great.
Don't know any Blasians my age.
I feel like being like a Blasian is like probably way worse than being like a mulatto. Is that
That is the
offensive?
most racist
Is that
term.
offensive?
I can't use that word. No.
I was gonna
don't
ask
you
her.
dare.
It's so funny. We were using it though in the 90s, and it wasn't derogatory. Now I'm being told I'm like it's derogatory. I'm like I don't know what is what. I just say
Right.
I'm mixed, or I
Right.
really just explain what I am.
You don't use the word the M word.
I mean, I use mulatto. Oh my god, I use mulatto like I do. I used to a lot, but I'm like now again. I was educated that it's not appropriate, so I might let it slip a few times. But again, I typically normally say I'm just mixed.
I don't use mulatto because I don't really identify with my white side like at all. So.
At all, even though you were raised with your white side?
Yep, and even though I identified in like 98% of my entire identity as a white woman until the age of 17. But I very, very, very rarely identify with my white side today.
When
I'm
did-
Italian. I like the food. I like where I come from.
I mean, I identify because I learned the culture in it's my family, like upbringing. You know what I mean? So
Same.
plus, I
the
learned how to
culture, and
cook.
that's why
I spent
don't
mad years in the
identify.
kitchen learning the family sauce.
Straight up.
Okay,
You are a
that
trip,
family
man.
sauce run deep. Okay, that's why I identify.
The family sauce.
The family like Italian red sauce, like yes, and the meatballs and sauce. I got that on lock.
My
So I'm-
grandparents don't even the three generations of grandparents. Not a single one of them makes the sauce the same way. My mom makes what we don't call it a sauce. We call it a gravy, and that's an Italian thing.
yeah.
Which comes with like usually a really large plethora of meat in it. My grandmother makes a straight marinara sauce, absolutely out of this world. That is absolutely meat free, and my great grandmother makes something in between the two.
Gotta love the culture.
I don't call it a culture like that. I have such a
What would you call it?
white.
See, so
I'm white.
When you
Like-
guys were also talking about like the mixing of like races and things like that. So when I was growing up, and I think you were also talking about boys too. Well,
Yeah.
when we were listening to about Chris Brown and the things like that too, that was funny. But like when I was growing up, that's how it felt. Like what you said, like it did feel that way. And I
feel like
had
what?
Well, the thing what she said, the Chris Brown.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it just basically felt like I had this white side that like because my dad's white, like and I had this white side that they would go and they would see me and they would accept me for who I am, but they wouldn't say that I was black. Do you get what I mean?
Facts.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So how did they accept you as you are, but they don't
So
consider you to be black?
So it's not that they didn't consider me to be black. It's just that it wasn't like brought up.
They didn't acknowledge it.
Yeah, so like when you guys were talking about like, you know, standing up for like Black Lives Matter and like, you know, like the white families pulling together and things like that. It was like it's not even that they said it like this, but like other problems mattered more than that problem. Do you get what I mean? And to be honest, my dad is the only one that married a black woman that I can really,
In your family?
Yeah, that I really can think of right now.
Are you
Not-
close?
That's how it is with my
My uncle voted for Trump. I'm not I'm not identifying with the whiteness of my family. Like, I'm not.
Are you closer to your father's side or your mother's side, or is it just equal?
Okay, so that's the point. So I was gonna just literally touch on that point too, but it's been like a bumpy ride, to be honest too. Like right now, I'm rekindling, like really, like that was a perfect word to explain it too. But like rekindling the relationships with my mom and my dad because of just certain things that like when I was growing up, I wanted to do music, so I was like in front of like the spotlight and things like that. And I don't know, like I don't know if necessarily I wanted that choice, even though that I know that I can do it. Do you get what I'm saying? Type deal.
Which side of your family do you feel like was more accepting of you?
That's a good question. To be honest,
Are you an only child?
no.
Okay.
No, I have two sisters, so I'm the only boy. Oh, I'm the only boy.
Okay.
Yeah. But dang, no, I'm thinking about that question. I think both sides, to be honest, they were both accepting, but it's crazy. Like,
What do you call accepting?
That's the see, like.
So because the reason why I don't identify with my white side the way I identify with my black side is because my white side was a level of accepting that most mixed kids don't even get from their white side. Like you get his experience. We don't really talk about it. We don't say that there's anything wrong with you by any means.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you. We're not out here being like, oh my God, like you're black and like that's an issue. But like most mixed kids just get the whole like, you are what you are, and we just don't talk about it. Like, I had the complete, like, if you ask my mom, if my mom were in this room right now and you were like, Joelle, do you like white people as a white person? She'd be like, no. My grandmother literally goes off on tangents, my white Italian grandmother, constantly about how she literally despises white people. She despises the way they move in this world. She despises the way they treat people of color. She despises the way that they lord power based in skin tone and, like, white privilege and male privilege in society. Like my grandmother is so hip to like white people being like the terrorists of America almost that like she says all the time like if I could have chosen I wouldn't have been this, I'll tell you that. Like I hate that like I'm now she's like the same way that like Law and Order like to put you all in the same category as criminal, like I am now sitting in the category of like white racist because like that is the majority of the people in which we come across in America at this moment for whiteness. So it's like my anti-whiteness literally comes from the whiteness in my family telling me straight up that like they completely understand and agree with why I would be anti-white.
Where does the I guess disgust for white people come from your mom to your grandmother? Like where does it come from? Like trauma based, you think?
George Floyd being dead, Trayvon Martin being dead.
But even before that.
Oh, even
like
before
like
that?
your grandma, like where does it come from her? Because
so
it
my
seems like
grandma was
that
like
white guilt?
super not racist as a kid, right? Mm-hmm. My grandmother my grandma was born in 45.
Yeah.
okay.
Segregation was still a thing.
Right.
My grandmother grew up in a time of segregation. When right around the time segregation ended, a little black girl moved to the end of the street. She was the only black girl in the neighborhood. My great-grandmother, my grandmother's mother, told my grandmother, a new little girl moved in at the end of the street. I want you to walk down the street and I want you to knock on her door and ask her mama if you can play with her. And my grandmother was like, the little black girl? And my great-grandmother was like, yeah, the little black girl. Go. And so my grandmother walked down her street, past all the white neighbors, to the end of the street and knocked on that little girl's door and said, can I play with your daughter? And it's been like that ever since. Like, then my grandmother moved to Georgia when my mom was 2 years old and my uncle was like 5. Segregation wasn't a thing anymore, but racism was still strong and prevalent. My grandmother's, my uncles played baseball. A lot of black kids played baseball too. A lot of black people didn't have cars then. My grandmother had no problem picking up these little black kids and like driving them to baseball games. Sometimes she'd stop and get ice cream, and white women would be like, nigger lover.
Yeah.
Like
Ready to fight.
Ready to fight my grandmother for the fact that she even had black kids in her car with her white kids.
Right.
And my grandmother was like, you can suck one. We gonna keep getting our ice cream.
That
like,
part.
I don't know exactly where it comes from, but it goes all the way back to like, we will not be racist. Like from the jump. Do I have any idea why my family feels that way? Absolutely not. But it's always been like that. Then my mom had me, and my grandmother was basically like, you sure you want to have a mixed baby? And my mom took it as like the most racist thing ever. And my grandmother was like, watch the turmoil. Here we are.
On paper, it doesn't make sense to have a mixed baby.
Absolutely not.
Depending on what neighborhood you're in.
What?
Okay. Why do you have your that position that you had about say it one more time?
About why mixed babies shouldn't exist?
Exactly.
Because honestly, I feel like anybody who sits here and says that they don't have, like, no offense to y'all in your stance, but like, if you don't, if you're gonna sit here and say that your life was not made to be more difficult, both emotionally,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't
But-
think
but-
I'm not a person who like believes in like the beauty of the struggle. Never.
No,
will be.
it's not the beauty of the struggle or anything
you.
like that. That's just my experience. Me being on this earth, and that is what my experience was. Because again, I am very blessed. I am very lucky. I have both my parents.
I feel like
I've
most
been-
mixed kids don't have both their parents.
Exactly.
though.
So you know what I'm saying? Like if that's one of the struggles that I had to experience in my life, I'm gonna chalk it up to the game and chalk it up to what it is or whatever.
we're here.
I could be medically, I could be sick. I could be handicapped. There's
Yeah.
so many things that could happen. So I'm just happy that I get to be here on this kind of platform.
Right,
Yeah,
and be
that's-
able to tell my story and be like, you know what? Because I see it now for mixed kids. There's so many. There's such an abundance
Yeah.
that it's turning into a melting pot, and we are getting rid of. Hate to say it this way, but I'm just gonna say it flat out. We are just getting rid of the white predominantly like
It's the truth.
predominant
truth.
in this country.
You're right, but I just go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say there's not a lot of like mixed role models. I mean, there are mixed
the mic.
people, but like
Grab
there's
the
not
mic.
a lot of mixed role models.
Especially
know
for
what I mean?
you.
Representation
Yeah.
is like one
No,
of the
that's
biggest
it.
things ever. Let me just clarify. Like representation is everything, and like there was no representation for me as a child. Like,
So,
none at all. There
so
was
why
none.
wouldn't you want to be the setup for now? Be the representation.
Because again,
That's
I
hard.
don't agree with making the struggle beautiful.
Everything's fucking hard.
I don't agree with
But-
making the struggle beautiful. Like, yeah, that's
It's not making
it's
it beautiful.
It's no different than people being like, well, I paid for college, so you should have to pay for college too. Like,
Fuck no, I
made
don't think
it through
anybody
it all,
should
and
pay
that's
for
how I
college.
got here.
Just saying.
So you should have to, like, you can do it too. Like,
the
no,
boomer
like
experience.
people, single moms have kids with no money, and then they're like, it's okay. Like, I know it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. In turn, like, you could continue on that generational curse of like having children
Yeah.
with very little money, and like, will those kids survive? Absolutely. Will they thrive?
But it's
Probably
appeal
not.
about healing from it. That's the difference. Like me sitting here today talking about my experience is something that I probably would have never sat up and talked about ever in my life amongst other people because of that. So me being here, even like in that stance of like what you're saying, it's like
No, I've healed. I still just don't think other kids should have to go through it. That's all.
I do think you are kind of setting your child up for like confusion.
Yeah, absolutely. My brain
So-
literally
And
has
identity
arguments.
issues.
My Italian side of my brain and the black side of my brain argue
Oh,
about how
absolutely.
things should be done.
Absolutely.
It takes up so much time and energy in my life, whereas people who are like a cricket, like, nah, bro, like, the black way is the only way, and that's just what it is. Like, we gonna move
I
forward
got
from
rage.
here.
I can kill somebody and I can hide a body. That's what I'm
Wait,
saying. Like that's the Italian Irish.
What about the other ethnicities too? So so
He's unique.
not just that though, but like what about like the,
I'm done.
I'm sorry.
Well, so that's
Exotical.
why I was saying I was going on a tangent because like I was trying to explain something too, like when I was talking about like the movies, but I went off all on the whole thing. But like, there's a lot of people that come in and we're all very nice. Like that's what I was trying to say about with the responsibility part. For instance, like we have our own lives, but when we come into the movie theaters, like how at an amusement park, you see people who are like responsible. I mean, there's better words to explain it, but like have their shit together. Whereas like, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that when I go home, I don't have all the problems of a black male. Do you know what I mean? Seeing like the struggle and you know what I mean, different things and things like that. But also because I am mixed, I feel like I have both sides. Whereas when I go to the movie theaters and to my job, like I see like white families going and having fun, and you know like the way that people act at work, and it's the same way that people acted in my family, and I like merge that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a question?
Adjust. You know what I mean? Like
Your Filipino side. So if you go to the Philippines, would people just like automatically accept you as Filipino?
I don't know. I mean, do I look Asian?
No.
Does that bother you at all?
I mean, people say I look Cape Verdean a lot.
But would you want to like if you went to like the Philippines, would you want to be accepted as Filipino?
Oh.
Would that bother you if you went to?
I don't know. I mean, see, I don't really look at it like that myself. I look at it like I just like.
Would you want to be identified where you go to your homeland?
I
I mean,
yeah,
you're one of
if
the other mixed people we haven't heard from you, and you're like Somalian.
if I
so
went
I'm
to
like,
Haiti and then people
would you be
like
upset that people didn't realize you're Haitian because, again, you were on the fair side?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
More
like so check it
Samoan.
out. When I grew up, people kept saying to me like, "Oh, you're not Haitian. You're not Haitian." If I went to Haiti, a lot of people would have like, "You're not Haitian."
Yeah.
I think that would kind of bother anyone. It's the same thing with like, "Oh, you're not."
about you.
Yeah.
Is your mom Haitian?
Would I be upset? I mean, I'm kind of used to it, but I'm used to being not
you said
accepted.
you're used to it, but did it hurt?
I don't know why you would be
Growing up, it
upset.
did. As a kid.
All right.
Yeah. When,
Yeah, and would you like dead ass Tata? Would you want another child to experience that? Like, would you like if you
oh
were
well,
the,
I did, so I put them through the pain.
Yeah, see, I'm like the complete opposite of that.
I
Like,
literally thought you'd be
I
a
don't-
different
I
stance,
don't
though. No
agree
bullshit.
With, like
This whole
me
time.
going through something and it making me like what doesn't break you makes you strong. No, it leaves you with severe PTSD
No, it
and a ton of
sucks, and you
trauma
gotta
in which
unlearn
you need
it.
to weed through in order to unlearn and to become a functioning person in society and to reach your full potential. I just don't. Today it is like
You don't want the
get me
legwork
wrong,
in
it's-
life?
It's a different experience, obviously, because like children today, like so
It's a
many
melting
children
pot.
are mixed. But so many children are mixed because our generation spit out mixed kids, and now the exotic fetishization has like vamped up to something uncontrollable.
That part.
I know a ton of mixed kids. Do I think that those mixed kids have supportive mothers that are white? Hell the fuck no. Like no.
Because they don't even know where their own trauma comes
No.
from. They don't even know
And-
why they even like black. They don't even know
Yeah.
why they even like black men.
Do you know how many kids? Do you know how many women I know who are white who had black children just as a rebel from
Yeah,
their own
right.
society and their own like?
Yes, that is
Oh
the thing.
yes,
That is
Like,
the thing.
totally.
No,
Welcome
I think that
to
so
the
many
world,
mixed kids
Tata.
grow up. And I also think if you have even a lick of emotional intelligence and you witness mixed children in their natural habitats with their families, you can literally see the discomfort.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see that a child feels as though they do not belong in that environment. And some kids are like I have tons. I know girls all across the spectrum. Like I said, like had you asked me at like 9 years old what I was, I would have told you that I was black and white, but like I wasn't really black. Like I was just a white girl trapped in a black girl's body. Like, do you know how cringy that is?
Things growing
But yeah, that
up.
shit happens.
Wow, I
But-
haven't
You know
heard
how
that in a long
cringy
time.
that is to me today, though?
But that's
I've
mostly
heard
because
those
you were growing up in like a Caucasian household.
An
So
environment.
So you had you're in Brockton, so there.
Absolutely.
So there's a whole bunch of people that kind of like look like you, that you're kind of being like. You're
Yeah, I
surrounded
mean,
by.
like, again, you guys all thought that I was some kind of Filipino or Cambodian when I came up here. So
Hell, you look more Filipino than him.
It's my mama's high cheekbones. That's what it is, okay? It's my mama's high cheekbones.
You don't think that you would have a different mindset if you were raised in just a neighborhood that was just Caucasian?
Yeah,
But again, I mentioned I was like my college years. We didn't really get into it, but I'm like my college years of being at Curry College for 4 years.
I don't think that counts, though.
But
That's not race.
No, but that's a little bit. I'm a little bit older, so I'm a little bit
Yeah.
older to understand these things.
Yeah,
you have
and
to
be,
understand
like
that.
more secure in yourself as well, because like I was a different level of secure when
But
I got
again,
to college.
but again, you were 17 and you said you didn't realize. Who's to say that when I turned 18 that I couldn't realize something else that was going on? You know what I'm saying? You're still a child. Honestly, at 18, I still think people are children.
But you're still
You know
more
what I'm saying?
solidified as
no,
as a
you're just
person.
more solidified. That's all I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, at 17 I realized, but it wasn't No, let me clarify. I didn't realize at 17. I acknowledged
You
at 17.
acknowledged at
Those are not the
17.
same things. Like, I
Yeah.
realized at birth. I just thought that if I told myself enough times that, like, this was something that I didn't have to identify as, that it would go away. And that's not the case.
My experience was when I entered college at 17 that I didn't realize what racism was until I went to a school like Curry College, where it was children who were probably only children. They found this school that was like right outside Boston. Again, they sold you the dream too.
Of course.
And then also again, it was class. We're talking about
Yes.
something that's different.
Different
Like
than
I
race.
said, like I grew up where I had to go home on the weekends and have a job to try to keep up or feel like I could keep up with these kids who could call their mother and be like, "Hey, mommy, put money on the phone.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
going
yeah.
shopping."
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that's a different situation or whatever. So,
Yeah.
But did you?
And then
you
again,
had that experience because of class, or because you was trying to keep up with the Joneses? Because, like, for me,
no, I wouldn't say keeping up with the Joneses. Like that wasn't it, because if I needed it, I had it. But it was like one of those things of me with my group of friends that I had chosen to be with. Like you get to
which were,
school.
I'm assuming, white friends.
At the time, yes, because one of the girls was white, but she was from Brockton, so we had a kinship, and we had already been friends before. So that was.
Like you gravitated more to white people.
I feel like
No, I wouldn't have said just that I gravitated towards white people. Again, in the environment that I was at in a school, the white person only that I knew or was kicking it with was from Brockton. Because, again, we all looked at each other in Brockton High, like I mentioned earlier. We all grew up in the lower middle class together. We all grew up in the trenches together.
I went to UMass
So then when the friends we did choose were like
you want
upper
some?
class, or I mean like
some?
parents could like,
They knew you were mixed though.
of course they knew I was mixed. I go around saying I'm mixed all the time. So.
Well,
It must have been hard for. I mean, not even trying to be funny. In Brockton, it's hard for like how you said in
I just think it was hard for me to transition from
lot
a
of
big
mixed schools.
melting pot to a small ass school of only 1,000 kids on a campus. It felt like I was on like, I don't even know, 90210 for sometimes. Like, you know what? Just the way that it felt like.
our experiences are so opposite, because I got
Yeah.
to college, and even in the majority of my college was white and Asian, but I literally sought out the kids that were like me. That was the first time ever that I was
Oh,
like,
that was later in
nah, there are
college.
black kids
That was
here
later.
my freshman year, and I was like, which means that in some way this is relatable. We both ended up on this campus, which means we have something in common, and I specifically sought out the black kids in my school. Shout out to Anderson, shout out to Angelo, and shout out to Grace. Like, those are my three best friends. And Cammy, because he'll be mad if he sees this and he wasn't.
Oh, Cammy's a
talking.
guy?
Cammy's a guy, yeah. And like, those were all black kids that ended up in my college. And in our dorm, we were like the black kids, and we did everything together. And like, that's where I found myself more than anything, because I realized that, like, no, you can identify with somebody who looks like you. I just was never, ever, ever exposed to like black kids who like to read, black kids who wanted to go to college, black kids who were still 100% in wholly black, like cricket, no lie, like 100% black. But my experience was with black people meant that, like, from what I was exposed to, like, you had to be a gangbanger, or you had to sell drugs, or you had to be a fighter, or you, like, there wasn't all these different genres of like what black was. Like, we now know as adults that like being black is not monogamous. Like, there is not
Right.
like one type of blackness
Area that you're
at
in.
all whatsoever.
Let's not get it
but I didn't know
twisted.
that.
Let's not get it twisted. The thing was, the friend group that I ended up in, I was still a part of the first black girl dance group that like in that school. I sought out black people. Again, I'm talking more of the society like outlook versus like being in a place like that. It was a culture shock for me coming from Brockton as well. Like, I showed up my first weekend in college and I'm watching a bunch of white kids get hauled away in ambulances because they came to college and let loose. Do you know what I mean? Those were the
Right.
type of people that I didn't want to be around. But again, I ended up, because I didn't necessarily, again, see it, and being in a melting pot of Brockton, see certain things. And then when I got into it, I'm like, you know what? This is not where I need to be. This is not the friend group I need to be a part of. Because when there were some parts that started to show my personality, that, again, I wasn't just their black friend, their token black friend.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Token
They
black.
got to see and hear my ebonics and hear what the fuck was up. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Then it was like, oh, play the victim. You know, I start to see who you really are. You know what I mean? I see what your personality is like. No, this was always me. You just did.
one person will get one side of you depending on who they are, and another person will get another
Right.
side of you depending on who you are. And I think that a lot of the times, I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but the mixed experience, that's the struggle that we go through. That
Yeah.
we're supposed to be labeled like, oh, do you identify more with black or do you identify more with white? Like, just because my parents were in love and had like made me, you know what I mean, that I have to choose like, well, I identify more like in my youth with, being white or being black. Like, it's
I hear that from a lot of mixed kids that like they don't want to have to choose. Like I shouldn't have to choose. I shouldn't have to be in a box. Which
I
agree.
love my family culture in all aspects because
Yeah.
it makes me who I am.
Well,
And
what,
I agree,
You know what I'm saying?
but at the same time, like I said earlier, like maybe not you specifically, but for me, in what I look like and the texture of my hair and the color of my skin, if I were to commit a crime, there would be no mistake with the police officer as to whether or not I was white or black, and therefore, like
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
that's it. Like
Absolutely.
I can't be out here like I identify
At that
as
level,
like nothing. Like no, because society has already decided there was a box for me.
Yes.
I'm bringing it back to what you said before about the mixed kids shouldn't exist. I think like the responsible thing to do, if you know you're having a mixed child,
Right.
is you can't live in a homogenous like neighborhood. You know what I
Homogenous
mean?
on either side though.
So like
right?
you say like you grew up in a like on either side. I mean actually no. I feel like if you had a mixed child, they would do better in just like a black neighborhood rather than just an all white neighborhood.
Yes, and so like for me, I will say that like a lot of my issue with like being, so like she grew up in Brockton, which is why like racism wasn't prevalent to her till college, because like the entirety of Brockton tends to be on the same class level. I grew up in Somerville. There are, if you go to one side of Somerville,
That's
the houses
true.
are worth $500,000. If you go 1.6 miles up the street in Somerville, the houses are worth $2.7 million.
That part.
Single family, 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom homes that white people live in. So like when I got to high school,
Gentrification at
that
its
was
finest.
as segregated as a high school could be. Poor kids, children, poor kids, black kids, children,
Right.
black kids, Dominicans, children, Dominicans, Brazilians, children, Brazilians, and rich white kids, chilled with, you guessed it, rich white kids.
I never
And like
experienced that.
You experience that?
Listen,
grew
I was a
up-
theater kid too. I would listen.
You were a theater kid?
Well, I mean, I was a theater dancer. It was like a cool thing for like athletes to try out for like theater, like the musical at
Okay,
the end of the
yeah.
year. Like, I don't know why it was a Brockton High thing. So, Brockton High was different.
Yeah.
You could be in a.
Yeah.
If you like to smoke butts, there were different kind of people that were outside smoking cigarettes too. Like there was that. It was weird to say there were stereotype kind of things, but it didn't matter what color you were in Brockton High. You know what I mean?
No,
like
it
if you were
did in Somerville High, we had a
no,
multicultural.
you were like
fair.
we had
That's
band,
how
the
segregated
band.
the city was.
Multicultural
No,
fair.
yeah, no lie. We had a multicultural
It's
fair.
interesting listening to you guys too, because you guys are older than me. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm
kind of
50.
guessing. Yeah.
Shut the fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
No,
20
you're not.
I'm 24, so
So
I assume
that.
I'm younger than you guys.
You are.
because-
You're
Yeah.
6 years younger than me. That's
yeah,
for sure.
So that 24. Yeah. So I like so, but like how I'm saying it, and it makes sense because all right. So when I was growing up, like it was a little bit like how you grew up, and a little bit like how when you grew up, because I went to 4 high schools. And,
Oh, 4 high schools?
Yeah. And,
God damn, how do you even make friends?
yeah, exactly. My friend over there, he went to 4 high schools too, and it was just like,
Is that a trend?
no, that's the point. I had never met anybody that went to 4 high schools
went to 6.
before. 6?
God damn.
High
I went
schools?
to. I moved 30 times before I was 18.
I think that's crazy.
I was
Yeah,
grounded.
it's also a terrible thing to do to your child.
I was a grounded
Yeah.
kid. Maybe that's what it was.
That's
I was a grounded kid. That's the
as a child,
difference.
I thought it was a
Against
terrible
all
thing
of
to
us.
do to my child, but I will
Yeah.
tell you that I might be one of the most liked people that I know. Number one, and number two, I might be the most
Adaptable.
exactly adaptable
teach
person.
you
Like it is so easy
adaptability.
for me to get along with anybody, no matter what the scenario is, and to assimilate to any society in
That
any
That sounds like
scenario.
superficial
That
friendships,
part.
though.
Yeah.
I'm just saying because I went to.
I got 5 best friends that I've been rocking with since I was
Okay.
3 years old. We always go back and forth to
I
each
went-
other's cities. So
I went to,
you can save all that, Tata.
I went to a school from 2nd grade to 12th grade, class of 50. Everyone, which call it, knowing each other from like.
Sounds like a
grade.
small life
Are you
experience.
kidding me?
Very diverse though.
Was it?
50
How
kids
diverse can you be if you all
from
grew up in the
grade
same
2
city?
to grade
Because
12.
everyone was a different race, ethnicity.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Mattapan.
This might be
But
crazy to
I
you,
went to school
but
in
Cape
Cambridge,
Verdeans
so-
from Somerville and Cape Verdeans from Boston are not the same. They be acting
very true.
completely different.
Okay, Verdeans in Brockton are crazy. You look like one.
I get that a lot. Or you Spanish? I get that a lot too.
yeah.
Or like you said, you thought I was Cambodian or Filipino. So it's that guessing game, okay? I've won a lot of bets that
Have
way.
any of us just like question as the male experience, and Shane, I want you to yell from over there as the mixed experience too. Have any of us ever not had that original greeting where somebody walks up to you and they're like, hey, like, and you guys meet each other and like you can see the itch all in their face that they just gotta ask, like, so what are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Even
I
I've
definitely
gotten
know
that. I get Haitian.
There's
Either
no-
People
Haitian.
don't
Totally
even
get that.
say hello to me.
Yeah.
They come up to me and they say my hair. You
No
know.
one,
Yeah,
no one
to
ever told
hair
you that
fit.
your jeans look confused. That's what they said to me.
What are you?
You guys watch Ari Spears? You know Ari Spears? I think everybody knows.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
Like,
Is it like
most of
Britney
the, like
Spears?
the black community knows. 'Cause
Yeah.
He's like a famous comedian.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like popping on YouTube right now on the
Yeah.
like the shorts and stuff. But like, but yeah, like Ari Spears talks about like.
Hold
he's
the
like,
mic. Hold the mic.
Okay, so Indian people, right? Like he was just like, I'd never been an Indian person before until I was like, I forget. But like he was just like, when I met an Indian person, he's like, what the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like, what are you? Like, you know, like.
I didn't meet a Haitian person until I moved here. I didn't meet a Brazilian person until I moved here. Where I'm
Yeah,
from.
you're from the South.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Black-
there's just black people
black,
there
white.
and white people.
Niggas
But we had a
sensitive.
lot of mixed Asian and black kids though in my class. We had a
Yeah?
lot of Asian and mixed. Asian and black kids. Yes, we did,
That's
and a
dope.
lot of Vietnamese. Haitian, Brazilian, Dominican.
We're in a port.
None of that.
We're in a port state, so it's like,
Yep.
do you know how hard it is to explain to a, like, even black people, because they're black in color, they're not black in culture.
Yes.
So they will walk up to me and be like, what are you? And I'm like, I'm black and I'm white. And they're like, but what kind of black? Black from where? Like black, like you're what are you? You Jamaican? You Trinidadian? What are you?
Wait, you usually think black people ask you the question?
Huh?
You think usually black people ask you? the
No,
question?
white people ask me the question too, but black people are way more comfortable to
Yes,
ask me
yes,
the
yes,
question.
yes. Because you
White
look more
people-
black.
Yeah, white
Yeah.
people will be like,
Yeah.
I get a lot of white people that ask me the question too.
I gotta
Tiptoe.
ask.
Yeah.
And then they're
Well,
like,
because of the hair, like
mind
how
if I
I
ask
Also
what
too
you
because you're
are?
a male.
Yeah.
It's also too because you're a male. Definitely.
do you mind if I ask where you are?
Yeah.
It's like white
Scared
people.
to
Like
ask.
I've had that a lot. Like itching to ask because like I think this is the first time I've seen y'all or showed up with my hair curly, and I've had a lot of people like, oh my God, is that yours?
I hate that fucking question.
I'm like,
You got that?
yeah, yes, of course. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, can I touch it?
I
No.
hate that
No,
shit.
so I get that same thing. Like just because I'm of lighter skin,
Yep.
a lot of I'd say white people assume that they can,
Yeah, the
test
lighter
their
you are, the
jokes
more they
out.
feel like,
they can
yes,
test their jokes out.
absolutely.
They can try and test their waters with me. But again, I'm black to the core. We're on the podcast. We're on a podcast. I'm just saying that.
Oh, me too. Am I
I'll
not
just
supposed to?
say that
But it's hard to like.
we're gonna get it up in here.
But, okay, so you're mixed though. So see, it's hard to like, how you say you're black to the core, and it doesn't mean that like, just like how I just said you're mixed. It doesn't mean that like the white side's in there or something like that. It just means that I think that like we kind of think that way too sometimes. Like for instance, like when you like you just said that black side's a part of you. I feel like there's also a white side as well, and I feel like people kind of like what you said too. Like you live in one side, but then when you embrace the other side, it's like maybe you just forget about the other one. Do you get what I'm saying or something
so,
like
nah,
that?
I get it
You what I mean?
completely. I didn't necessarily forget, but I just realized that like we are all like it doesn't work for everybody. Like some people are completely and totally comfortable in their body and like in their skin, and they're like, I'm both, and that's it. And like you're never gonna tell me one way or the other. Like I have experiences that have directly correlated to how I feel about each race. That's just what it is. And like it's not to say like she said something earlier about how Angela, right?
Yep.
Angela said something earlier about how like
My full government.
how sorry.
Right, I was like,
It's
I thought her
okay.
name was Angie.
Is it?
Okay, now
Angie.
we
It's
exposed it. Angela
Angie.
is the full name.
Angela's
Angie.
the full-
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
Look
but
me up.
she had
Look
said
me up.
earlier, like she was like, well, it's not like I wasn't like it's not like black women didn't do the same. Like it's not like black women weren't like you aren't like black enough. Like you're like half white. And like I went through that experience as well. But the thing is that I have way more empathy for a black woman who looks at me and is like, nah, bitch,
hope
you're not
that
one of
didn't
us,
come
than I
off.
will ever have for
I
a
hope
white
that did
woman.
not come off like that because I was only explaining my experience. I
No,
have
no, no.
empathy for our community
I
and
know
what
that.
society
But I'm
perpetuates
saying
for
I
us.
don't
It's awful.
I don't have that experience still to this day within me in which I like so like that happened to me too. Like black women were mean to me as a
Yeah,
kid.
I can
like
imagine.
absolutely
Yep.
so
She
mean
said
to
it.
me.
Look at you, little red bone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know that I was called like high yellow till I was like
Yes.
I couldn't even tell you
Yes.
how old. And red bone is literally the number one word used to describe me. Like look at me guys. Like I have super high cheekbones. I have like not the classic Negro nose to these people. Like I don't have the fullest lips. Like they're not I don't have thin white lines, but they're not the fullest lips.
Thin white lines.
And like I have very what people would consider like exotic like features. Like
Yeah.
what are you
Yep.
features?
Right. Yeah.
And that being said, like I did constantly get like the bitch you're not black.
Yeah, yeah,
And-
yeah.
But and I got it from white people too, like bitch you're not white.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But from
Right.
white
Right.
people, I'm like, you're coming from a place of racism.
Yep.
Right.
Whereas black women I knew from day one were always coming from a place of pain. Like, no,
Yes.
that's because women like my mother
Yes.
have been fucking with men that belong to your culture to have babies like me, to never truly love them, to then talk about how you ain't shit. I get where you're coming from, girl, and I will never hold that against you.
Not truly love them.
That never.
I draw the line at that real quick. I was snapping. That's why I was like, oh, I gotta stop.
I was gonna say that never really happened to me because I was like, so being Haitian, being Samoan, Haitian people as kids they always make fun of you, blah blah blah. But now I was like older, black people are super accepting about the black people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh yeah, you're a nigga too. And then for the Samoan side, I just have the genetics that like make me Samoan. Like
Yeah, yeah.
some people think I go to the gym and work out. This is like I was genetically built to be big.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? That's like a Samoan trait. So,
So were you ever a baby?
I'm done.
Or were you like kind of like a puppy where you just sprung up to the
Right.
second
Were
you
you ever a
talk?
baby? That's hilarious.
It's just the genes. So it's like I never had like the issue of just like not being like accepted into like one of my races.
Right.
But I feel
get
like
that.
I had a white friend dye my belly button hair blonde when I was a kid.
really.
Yeah, because that's what they were doing. Because they were white. So it was like,
I'm sorry.
you know, it made sense for them.
I'm also
And I was all like, yeah, sure.
when you said like so like men grow up or mixed men grow up with like more of the white privilege, did you feel as though you didn't get like any of that?
Nah,
Any white
absolutely not.
privilege?
I will never say that. I got tons of white privilege. Like I got tons of
Did
white
you?
privilege. I'm mixed. Like yes, absolutely.
That's what I was, like, saying.
So again, I grew up in like an actual community in which like there were so many different classes of black people. I grew up in Somerville. Somerville is literally still to this day considered one of the most diverse cities there is.
I love Somerville.
There was a Cambridge too.
I love
Yeah.
Cambridge.
Like the
Oh, I
diversity
love
is thick as hell
Cambridge.
there. So like
You
that.
love Cambridge?
I
Yeah,
love
absolutely. Me
Cambridge is
too.
a different
I got a
thing.
P.O. box when I lived in Randolph in Cambridge just to go to Cambridge.
Yeah,
I
no
love
lie.
Cambridge.
And I agree.
Wait,
But
I
like,
want to hear
different
more about
type
this
of
white
breed,
privilege.
man.
What white privilege do you have? I'm like I'm just like asking
All
like
right,
what's your
we'll just
experience
do
with
this.
that?
So like being
want
I'm
you
gonna
to
go
atomize
first.
it.
I'm gonna go
let's
after
not even
that.
talk
Okay.
about let's not even talk
us some-
about like my physical appearance. Let's just talk about
That
Being a
part.
woman.
yeah, being a woman and being a woman that is half white.
Mm-hmm.
That just being out there into the world. Number one, I have a very Italian
Half
last
Karen.
name. It's Panisi.
Yeah.
That
Very,
got me
very
into more
Italian.
doors than like,
Absolutely. My
Panini.
last name did too. That yep.
So that's right. White privilege piece number one.
The last
white
name?
privilege piece
Yep.
number two is the fetishization of black women.
Right,
Even
right.
though it is a disgusting scenario,
Yep.
I am such the perfect dip my toe in the water type bitch.
Oh.
Like let me. I've never been with a black girl before.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna be the
Yeah.
first, motherfucker. Believe that. Keep
Yeah.
it pushing.
Could you guys also like elaborate on that?
Oh yeah. Let
That
me let her
happened to me
finish. Wait,
too
because
a
I got
lot,
my
even
own
just-
like.
and I think it has to do with
yeah.
being a lighter skin.
Yeah, it's lighter skin
Because if
tone.
you were dark,
But
darker
most
skinned,
black women don't have. You also, Cricket, you're not going to tell me that people have not told you your whole life. What are you other than black? You're not just black.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, in our society, when you look as gorgeous as Cricket is, it is the automatic thought of white
Assuming
people
that
that
there's no
there's
way
something
you
else
can be
in
black.
Gotta be
you.
something
There's no
else.
way
Look
you
at
can
you.
be
There's
black.
no
ridiculous.
way you could be all black. Like
Yeah.
I got that white privilege. That carries itself
disgusting.
very far. It's a disgusting ass
disgusting.
feeling. Don't
Is
get
that
me wrong.
Privilege? Is there a fetishization?
Fetishization fetishization allows for privilege.
Definitely.
It just depends on how you.
who the person is, because
Yeah.
it's trauma based, and they don't even realize where it's
Fetishization is like
coming
a
from.
like a sexual
Don't do that. Listen, you're doing that on her
It
live.
doesn't
Right?
it's not even just a sexual thing. Though, because like people have mixed babies, and even down like you have a
Fetish
mixed
of having a
infant,
mixed
they're
baby.
Like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
there's
so
like a
beautiful
baby.
baby, so beautiful.
Yeah.
But to bring it full like to the next of like where I know I benefit, like again, I know I benefit with my last name. My freaking last name is O'Neal, spelled like Shaquille O'Neal. Don't get it twisted. So again, I was talking about it earlier, and I'm like, yo, this is corporate. Like this, we haven't even talked about like living as a mixed kid in like places like corporate America, like because I know for a fact
That's the
that I
word.
get motherfucking. It's not even because I have a degree. It's not even the fact that I have, you know,
It's about bridging the gap.
like achievements and things like that. I literally have a name that says Angela O'Neal.
Yeah, yeah.
When somebody sees that on their resume desk, they're like, ooh,
Yeah.
Angela is Italian.
That's
is
a white
well,
girl.
Latin name.
Yeah.
That's a white girl. And then I come in there just like, and then I can't tell you even in my jobs when I have, because I was an event coordinator, a
I call
corporate
it the
event
7 minutes
coordinator.
of shock.
Well, no, I've been a corporate event coordinator, so I see people
You know
like
that 7
like
minutes?
emailing through and whatnot. They come to shake my hand.
Yeah,
I
7 minutes of
swear.
shock. They look at you like,
No, not that. I get your eyebrows are raised. Like, give me a hand. The eyebrows are raised like, oh my God, this is who you are.
Yeah.
Like this is like, oh
okay.
wow. She like
She's
this
not the
wasn't what
white
I
girl I thought she
expected.
was.
Right,
but
right.
she's so much more. And then again, because we've had this conversation multiple times, people are like, well,
that's
what
a
are
privilege
you?
because like I wouldn't
Then
even
it-
have been able to get into the door otherwise.
Right, exactly. My motherfucking name. I thank my parents all the time just because of Angela.
me, it wouldn't have
just because
mattered.
my mom knew
Damn.
to
My
name me
mom's
that.
last name is Panisi, which is super Italian, but my dad's last name is Anderson. Like either name was gonna get me through the door. They were both white.
My last name is Tata. I can only imagine that the person reading the resume is like,
That's
what
your
the fuck is
last
this?
name?
What the fuck is a Tata?
Yeah,
What country is
A
it?
tater
I
tot?
don't know.
no lie. So like, okay, so like they that's a tater tot in a food, right? Obviously, it was a joke, and you laughed along, but like.
In Creole, it means like a fart, doesn't it? Yeah. So it
Really?
means like a fart, goodbye.
I
In
think I gave it
India,
a better
it's
meaning
big-
than what it was.
Yeah. But like, so for
Yeah.
me, like those jokes, I considered to be like super detrimental as a kid. Like,
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because like as a child, when you're still forming a thought about who you are, they penetrate.
That's when what do
Yeah.
they say? What do they say? Kids are like the meanest.
Yeah.
That's when all the trauma happens. So like
Yeah.
all the trauma.
Right,
of
right,
being
right.
So a lot of the
mixed-
stuff
Yeah.
we're talking about
Around
now
the
is a lot of the kid trauma.
Yeah.
Let's just
Like
put that
a
out there.
child at 8 years old being like, my name is. What's your first name? Because I've been going by Tata forever.
Oh, Jonathan.
Okay.
Tata is like Caucasian.
So like if
right, right.
if somebody
again,
was
I
like,
know
what's
you
your
as that,
name?
so that's
and you were
why I
like
laughed. I'm
Jonathan
like, what's your
Tata,
last name?
Jonathan Tata, and then they were like, like tater tot. But as a kid,
That
you'd be like,
happened, that slapped, that hurt.
No, which I used to get harassed with Hakuna Matata.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
The
yeah,
dumbest shit. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so like
The
those
corniest
types of-
shit.
Those types of like interactions as a child
Yeah.
are like
That's
Yeah,
awful.
I used to hate my last name. Honestly, all my siblings, we all
We haven't
hated
sat
it.
here and talked about you, host.
Yeah, he haven't
Yeah.
said he hasn't said much
We
about his
actually have a very different
biracial
dynamic.
experience.
We've been going back and forth because our
normal.
contrast.
He thinks that he didn't have any crazy like we've had.
Are you
Oh,
kidding
no,
me?
so I was only my school is very diverse, but I was the only mixed light skinned dude. In
You
my
didn't
grade.
think that-
So I
well-
had a whole bunch of Haitians around me. I'm half Haitian.
And he says that when we talk, the reason why
That
this came
didn't
about is
bother
because we had a
you at.
conversation.
I feel like men
No,
are
it did.
Again.
I told you which they used to tell me that I wasn't Haitian. They did that from until I was like, all right, this is what we're doing. Then now I'm gonna have to become racist. You know what I mean?
No, and that,
Like, well, I'd be like, oh, the fuck Haitians, fuck y'all. You know what I mean?
Savage.
And then they were like,
Some
oh wait,
reverse
you're one of
psychology.
us.
Dad make racist like jokes, kind of.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, so that, I was
Yeah.
gonna touch. Well, see, I was gonna touch upon that. See, dads do that
Yeah.
when the, like
Yeah,
the
when
white
you
dad-
have- yeah, when you're a white
dads,
dad.
Yeah, they do that.
I have a Samoan dad.
Yeah, they do that. Like,
Well-
I don't know. Like, all right, I don't know. I'm trying to think
white
of a
dad
joke.
jokes. They're supposed to be funny,
Yeah.
like dad jokes in general, but they're
Yeah.
actually like super cringy. Like, cause it's like
Right.
it's supposed to be a joke, but
You
like
don't
you're,
you don't like
talking
think
about
about
your
it. Yeah,
kid.
you don't like bring it up, but like it's a thing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, it's a
and
thing.
that's another reason why. That's another way I gravitated away from like my whiteness and closer to my blackness. And honestly, like if we really dig deep, or if I really dig deep, it might have a lot to do with like for all I know, like I come from the South, and like I could be being fetishized by my own people for the same way that like Cricket was talking about like women in the South are not like the way she was like my mom is not like pro-black.
Yeah.
Like so like let's just clarify that the experience in the South is like so different legally. Like the legal experience
Right, legally.
in the
Okay.
South.
Right.
That like
Yeah.
there is a privilege of just being black and being on the coast. It is okay for you to be like in the streets of Arlington as a black woman screaming fuck white people and like Black Lives Matter and like you can get strung up in a tree in the South for that.
That part.
Straight up. Like so like that like
Even in the
Yeah, we don't get
2000s.
into
yeah, that
Are you serious?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
That flexibility doesn't exist like that in the South. That being said, sometimes it's even a possibility in my like you could dig all day long, which I do, like because this is how you figure out who you are and you become more and more okay with yourself. But like there are days where I feel as though like like my black family could be fetishizing the fuck out of me on a pedestal type shit, and that's why I identify with them so well because I feel like they so love me.
Yeah.
Like versus my white family being like, like in my like I'm everything to my black family. I don't know if that has anything to do with my skin color. I'd like to believe it doesn't.
Right.
But they also love my mama to death, like in a way that's like kind of crazy to me. Like y'all do know that this is a white woman, right? Like,
But I think
to
black
them, they're
people
like,
love on white people or love on people.
whole
people,
black women.
People, whole black
I feel like
people.
I feel like purebred black women love on white women. Some of them.
Yeah, some of
But
them.
not love on white women when
I
you're,
tend to
you're
go-
turning your
what does
head
that
up like
even
that.
mean?
Nah.
You're turning your head up like that. I'm more about like everything that the black community has been through. We still shine love.
Right.
That's the difference of what I said
Right,
it
right,
quick,
right,
and I,
right.
I apologize for
I
what
knew
I said.
exactly what you meant.
Thank you, but I'm like, yo, because again, I was just having this conversation today
I
with
think
my
it's
boss.
trauma.
No,
I
because-
think it's trauma, and like I choose to do like because I'm a mixed person, and because I do feel so like my black friends have no problem talking to me about white people when there are no other white people around. Like, and it's some shit.
Wait, your black friends have no
Problem
trouble?
talking to me about white people when there are no white people around.
Oh, okay.
And when they do talk to me, it's like some real whole ass experiences on blackness and like what whiteness
But
has
that's about
done to
the
blackness.
experience more.
But then when a white person walks into the room, we all know what happens when a white person walks into a room full of black people.
What happens?
We all act different. We
What?
all act different.
No, that's
we
some
all,
coon shit.
No,
I don't do that
we
shit.
all get like, not
listen,
coon shit.
I'm gonna
No,
turn
we
on
all
my
just
corporate
get, like,
voice if I need to.
Exactly.
I said, listen, if I'm in my
corporate voices
in-
come on, body language changes. Like, you're just not as comfortable being your natural self with, like, white people in the room. I choose to think that that's trauma-based. Like, I think that that's from the trauma of white people and just not wanting them in your circle. Like, you just, like, I'm not going to get all the way to the nitty-gritty of vulnerability in front of, not for me, because I grew up with a white mother, but so many of my black friends will immediately be, like, on their almost, like, best behavior.
Where are they from? Are they from the hood?
Shh, not me.
Or are they raised?
No, I feel like in that stance because I've actually had something happen recently because
You be code switching?
No.
We all code switch. You're going to sit here and tell me you don't code switch?
No, everybody code switch.
Yeah.
Well, to
that's
certain-
exactly what I'm talking
well,
about.
to a certain
I mean,
extent,
code
so-
switching is a thing that you do to make white people
corporate
comfortable.
voice is my
Nah,
like
I mean, no,
radio.
that's-
Then what is it?
Say like my like
Professional.
professional
Yeah.
telephone
Why?
voice.
Like when I talk to my nephew, I code switch.
Why?
Because
it
I'm not gonna,
because
I'm not
I
gonna
like
swear at
sounding
my
professional.
nephew.
I
Why?
like
Because I'm not gonna swear at him.
But why?
I like sounding
Because I'm not gonna do
smooth.
that to him.
No, but why? That I'm not going to is not a reason, Tata.
Yeah, I don't like what the hood do.
How old is he?
He's
Wait,
11.
is
So
he-
are
he's
you telling
black?
me that swearing is relatable to your black side?
That's code switching does not have to just do with.
He's
do
talking
with
about code
ethnicity.
switching in general in
You-
certain like situations.
Like the way I talk to my mom is gonna be different than the way I talk to you. That's
Right.
still code switching.
Yeah, he's right.
You know, if I'm in a room with just with friends and I'm in a room with like coworkers, I'm code switching. I'm talking differently.
I'm not gonna lie. I code,
Coworkers, I code switch.
I code.
with.
I code
My
switch.
mother, absolutely not.
I'm
Like,
with
I'm not
my
gonna-
hood
I'm not
friends
gonna
and my
say
friends
nigga
I've
to
been
my
with my whole
coworker.
life or whatever, and then I'm talking to
If
my
my
coworkers.
coworker's
and
black,
gonna
I'm
s-
saying nigga.
And I'm gonna sound actually like this because this is how I'm gonna sound. I was
If my
a
coworker's black, I'm
communications
not
major.
talking like that. If my coworker's white, yeah.
I paid a lot of money for that voice. I paid a lot of money for that
It's
college
pathetic.
degree of that voice real quick, okay?
I didn't even finish college, and my code switching is like A1. But it's not.
Shout out to being a dropout.
It's not something I'm like.
No,
Proud
you have a
of.
degree. Nah, you have a degree. Get out of here.
I feel as though like when I
Damn
code
me.
switch, usually on the phone, and usually it's because me just being this would not get me the same reaction from the person on the end of the phone as me being like, "Hi, this is Ariel Panisi, and I'm looking to speak to the manager."
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get you the same
That's-
respect. It doesn't get you.
That's when it makes sense to code switch.
Why doesn't it get me the same respect though?
Because it's like a
Because
chameleon. You have to adapt to the environment that you're
corporate
in.
world,
If you're
you're
going to
supposed to
survive, it's like a dog-eat-dog world out
You
there.
said
I'm
your
just,
mom, you said
Survival
your
thing.
nephew, you said
Okay. If you were a lawyer, right, the way you talk to your friends and the way you show up to court, are you saying that you should be able to say whatever however you talk, and you should be able to win that case?
Should you be able to? Absolutely. Yes, it is.
you
If
should.
You should.
Hey, yo,
Absolutely.
hey, yo,
I went to
my
4
nigga,
years of
he's
law
innocent,
school.
You
man.
can,
Like,
if
what
you
talking
can, no,
like
no, no,
3 years
no.
of law school to
If
learn all them
you
books and shit.
can, first of all, I have a
Impact.
best friend who is a lawyer. She's a lawyer for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and she actually she absolutely murders it and has many awards on her ability to murder it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
she might be one of the most hood niggas I've ever met in my life. That's number two.
She goes to court and does that?
No, absolutely not. But when I tell you that she'll be the first person to tell you that it's absolute racism, that she can't, because if she can argue the point, no matter
Yeah.
what the Ebonics colloquial language she uses, if she can argue that person's innocence and prove that they're innocent, that should be it.
Should
It
be.
should have absolutely nothing to do with the way in which she respected you while she argued.
No, because
There's,
No. No, because nothing.
Tata.
yeah, because you're navigating words. You're navigating just because you're innocent.
Obviously, you never got that. So, like, me speaking like this isn't something that I always spoke like, and I honestly lived my life in code switch the entire time. Like, I constantly spoke like a white girl and made sure that everything that I said
Wait.
was enunciated. Exactly, was enunciated. That I basically sound like I was reading from a book my entire life. I only spoke in this tone. I kept my tone the same the entire time. There was absolutely no excitement about things that are normally excitable to black people.
Right.
And there was no point in which I would dramatically drop my tone about things that were not excitable. This was it. That 100% was based on me not getting the same reaction and through the same doors otherwise.
Okay.
Adaptability.
Also,
Let's-
like,
let's run this back real
talking
quick.
white is like a racist thing.
But
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
gonna
the
say,
idea that being clear, like speaking
Is a
like this
white thing.
is a
Yeah.
white
Yeah.
thing,
Right.
versus just being a human, and now you a nigga.
wait. Let me run this back. I was gonna say you do realize being innocent almost like 60-70% of the time has nothing to do if you win a case. Otherwise,
You do realize that
otherwise-
has absolutely nothing to do with what I just said about language, right?
But language. But that's what I'm saying though. You're saying like you said if someone's innocent, they should be able. You should be able to speak any way.
I said if you could
there's a-
argue somebody's innocence, it doesn't matter how you do it, which Ebonics
does.
colloquial, it should
Because
not.
you realize like the people who win cases are the people who have money and hire the best lawyers, and those are the way people who can speak very well. It doesn't matter if you're innocent; they can
No.
convince a
Could-
jury
it-
that you're fucking guilty.
That's not.
It's to be
First of
able to
all,
the way
speak
you
the
speak
judge.
and
First
the
of
way you
all,
convince
less than like 15% of actual cases make it all the way to jury. Let's just clarify. Let's just start there. Number two, most cases are pled out because you're given this opportunity that we understand you think you're innocent. We understand that you might even know you're innocent. But you have two options. We can go to court and you can hope to God that those people, that jury of 7, also believes that you're innocent and you might get off. Or you can take the deal that says you're not innocent, whether you're innocent or not, and take 4 years. But if you lose at trial and you can't convince those people you're innocent, you're going to jail for 10.
Well, that's why speech
Most
matters.
don't even get that. No,
Yeah,
It's
that
more
has
than
nothing to do
language.
with
I've
language
taken
at
a
all
couple law
whatsoever.
classes. Speech really
That's
matters.
the law
It's always
system.
about
That's
jargon.
the system of our like that's the system of our law. That has nothing to do with language at all.
I'm just saying. You're saying that speech shouldn't matter if you were innocent, and you should be able
No,
to.
speech shouldn't matter when you're arguing somebody's innocence. You don't have to be innocent.
But is that like it shouldn't matter or it doesn't matter?
It does, but it should not.
Oh, that's an idealistic world.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're striving for,
Yeah. I guess so.
right? No?
We should be striving for that.
Right? Mm-hmm. I feel like if you have a black lawyer or any lawyer, whether they're black, white, orange, I don't care. Like if that relatability, it's kind of like the equivalent to like the work week and the work day. That like corporate America for the past 70 years has just decided that it should be an 8-hour day. Whether you can get that work done in 2 hours or not, they have decided that we should be here for 8 hours. So you better spread it out. It's the same thing. It's asinine. It doesn't. How I argue or how I speak should have absolutely nothing to do with how seriously you take the matter in which I'm speaking on. This happens in hospitals all the time. Like, people go to the hospital, black people go to the hospital, Hispanic people go to the hospital, people who do not speak English as their first language go to the hospital and are treated completely and totally differently than people who walk into a hospital and can code switch, like who can speak in a manner in which you automatically assume that they have some education from somewhere, and what privilege that will afford them for people taking them seriously when it comes to their loved ones or themselves in health.
All I gotta say is, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I could still go speak my proper professional voice. I could still have my name. At the end of the day, I'm telling you, I go through the experience where somebody looks at me and they're like, "You're still a nigga." I hate to say it like that, but like,
absolutely.
I understand everything you're saying, but like,
Jay-Z
I
already
know-
said that.
No,
He literally
well,
said exactly that.
I guess I'm repeating Jay-Z, and I
Rich
ain't
or
never
not,
heard
you
it.
still a nigga in a coupe.
No, I ain't a nigga in a coupe, but I just mean that I have been like,
No,
you're
a
talking
coupe
about.
is in a car. A coupe. Like, if you a nigga
No,
in a,
I know,
in
I
a
know.
Benz, you still a nigga in a
No,
coupe.
I understand, but I'm just explaining that to move on from that. It's like, yo, I have been in that situation that you're describing of, you can speak properly, you can have a degree, you can have, the confidence, or again, be able to switch code. A lot of the times being a mixed kid, to bring it back full circle, that like, I'm still black. I'm still what people see me as black. And, I've been in these situations, and I find them to be more now as an adult than I was as a child, because I just felt like a little bit. I mean, we were talking earlier, you were like, kids are mean, which was who I dealt with the trauma and the issues with. But when it came to like adults now, I'm dealing with boomers, and I'm dealing with boomers in a corporate environment, and I'm dealing with them in this type of life. And I'll say it, I have a job, and I am the only black person in my job.
And that's not killing you?
No, because again, I work. Well, mine is different. I work for a millennial. I don't work for a boomer. My boss is a millennial, so we sit and talk. Like, even
different.
before I got here tonight, we're sitting here having this conversation, and he is white or whatever, but he's dealt with different plights than I have. So that's why we can respect each other and understand each other. And he was like, Ange, like, when we go out, sometimes he's like, I feel like everything could be good, and then all of a sudden you bring up something about white or black. And I'm like, but Steven, you're ignorant to think that like we're sitting here or in everyday life. And he's like, you know what? I might be ignorant just because I don't understand and I don't go through that on a day-to-day basis. But he's like, there's probably people who look at me because I'm big and huge and stuff like that, think I'm like a biker or a Nazi or like
everyone
a
gets
racist or
stereotyped.
whatever.
Everyone gets profiled. Everyone gets judged.
Like,
No, but
everyone.
I could understand the man's plight of trying
Right.
to understand about where I was coming from. He asked a question about why I had brought it up all the time. He never brought it up before. Again, it wasn't an issue that he made it. He was just something he's like, I recognize, because we spend so much time together. Again, I work for a small company where it's only like 12 people. So being the only black person, I'm going to take it. But we don't have that conversation. When they're like, choose the person's baby picture, I'm like, yo, can I be a free space? Y'all going to know it's me. I'm the only dark one here. I'm like, and then there is another, for example, Asian woman in there. I'm like, yo, can me and her be free spaces? Because y'all are just going to guess us. And it's like they're joking, but I'm like, I look around, I'm like, I'm so serious. I'm so serious.
One question. So for black people and white people, though, when does it, like, the compassion part, when do we get that, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Compassion?
for one another to be, do you get what I'm saying, white or black?
You
So
just
for
gotta
instance,
That's
because we are
cool.
mixed. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, in like
You gotta be that. You
line
gotta
of
be
actually
that.
We are still black. Do you
Right.
get it? Or we are black. Like, when do we get the, like, okay, there's a multiple, or mutual ground here. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, because I feel like
Never.
I don't,
Trying to think.
Never. That's-
No, because like white people will never. You can't empathize with something you don't know anything about. Like white people constantly, usually. Sorry, white people will always like try to throw something out there that's relatable, but at the end of the day, there is nothing relatable to me having to walk around with my skin color and you not anything a white person has that may or may not cause them to be discriminated against for the most part. Obviously, there are definitely one-off cases like birthmarks and things of certain natures in which you can't change, but like can almost always be covered up, changed, adjusted to not have to deal with society's view on said thing. If you're an overweight white person and people are making fun of you for being fat, you can lose weight. You can never if you're a cop and you're like Blue Lives Matter, like no, you get to go home and take off your
Right, that
uniform. There is never a day
It's
in
an
life in which I do
occupation.
not wake up and go
It
to
is an
bed in my skin
occupation.
color.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there isn't a relatability in that sense. Like there isn't.
You gotta do the Michael Jackson thing.
But
Yeah,
it's not necessarily
no,
about
we are not doing
relatability, I
that.
don't think,
And
in that
even that-
standpoint, because I'm sorry, like, 'cause Again, I have a different experience and I could speak on it because I lived it. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a family that not only like, yes, it's not relatable, but those are my allies. My mother walk around or whatever and somebody look at her like, motherfucker, what's up? Yes, I do got a mixed kid. What the fuck are you saying? But my mother was raised very differently. It started, like you said, the hatred started very late with your grandmother or your great grandmother. My family started in love.
No,
Or
my
the
family started
difference.
in love.
But I mean, but again, we're talking about white people or whatever. My grandmother and
Oh.
raised her kids, her 4 white children, in love, that we're going to love everybody. Everybody's going to be different. So like I said, although my mother married the black man, my other aunt married a biker.
Yeah.
Who was in a biker game, which is a totally different reality that we're not like going to
Right.
get into. But
Right,
again,
right,
it's
right.
something experience. My other aunts moved to Canada and married a singer and dealt with that like living from plate to plate, or
right.
you know what I'm saying? So
Gypsy life.
it was different for everybody's experience, but for my experience in this, and yes, you know, where does it stem and where can we help? It's becoming an ally, recognizing these issues that yes, you're racist, like you could be racist, and there are stems of racism and things like that.
I
But
think white people like.
All right, yeah.
I
Last
think white,
point.
I think white people like don't really address like the black issues, or like before, like that's kind of like how we're bringing it up in the Black Lives Matter movement. Like they didn't address the issues, but now that they're addressing the issues now, it's like we're questioning it. Like, so why didn't you say this before?
Yeah,
Do you get what I'm saying? Like
we
this,
all- yeah.
you get what I mean? And it's just a real, like, just kind of like how we're having a human interaction right now. It's like a real human world thing. And I feel
would
like
believe that white people are for black people when they just allow black people to exist.
Yep.
When we get to a place
that's
in
the
which we
compassion
can
part.
just
That's what I'm
exist,
saying. Human, you know what I mean?
not
Humanity.
to be questioned why we are the way we are, why we look the way we are. Can I touch your hair? Like, is your mama white? Is your mama black? When I can just exist, when people who look like us can just exist, and white people just go about their mother effing day as like any
and
other
that's
person.
and to wrap it up, that is coming soon. So as much as you said there are children going through it, there are next generation of a multitude of mixed kids that'll be sitting maybe on the show in 20 years or whatever, explaining like, whoa, like I grew up differently, like my experience was different. There were so many other mixed kids. So although that we sit here talking about pain and trauma and things that happen or whatever, let's look to the future generations that they don't have to go through it, and that they do actually get to be accepted, and they get to live like your dream, because you may never see that. You may never. I'm not
need
saying.
to see it.
I'm
I'm
not saying.
okay.
But again, you did wish for it. I'm
No.
not saying you didn't want to see it, but you wished for it.
I wish for it for the next generation because I
Yeah.
can't stop people from
and,
having
and
mixed
like I
children.
said, and on that note, that's what I'm saying. I root for my next generation, because I'm not going to forget about the people who took care of me when
Yeah.
I was in the 90s. It's so much different. Yo, like all of us are millennials. We all are like in our like close to 30s. Like we saw technology change too. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say that the environment or society about mixed race, or again, loving day, or like people being interracial relationships are just more common than you would ever find now. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. That's what's going to be our world, or just be what's within the United States. Because I could go to other places too. Like I have family in Bermuda, and I look at white Bermudians and I see black Bermudians. And I've been that dumbass American who's been like, what do you guys classify yourself as? What do what are you? They're like, I'm Bermudian.
That's right.
I am Bermudian. It
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
matter that I was
about
enslaved,
other-
that our people were brought here against our will, because that's their history. And they say it straight out now. We are all Bermudian. That's at the end of the day. We are all, again, Americans, and we all are going to be a mixed, melted pot sooner or later. You can't
That's
stop it
right.
at this point. That's it. So,
On that note, Cricket.
Woo, I'm tired from this conversation. Yeah, nap. I need a nap before I wrap it up. With that said, at the end of the day, we're all people. The illusion of separation is the greatest illusion that there is, and I just wish that everybody would just, like you said, the word is compassion. You know, we are human beings, not human doers. You know, so just allow each other to be. If there's something that you don't understand, you know, ask, but don't ask out of ignorance, and just realize and try to understand where your perspective lies, where your perspective came from, and just love on each other. We're all on this floating rock for a reason. Yeah. Like we don't shift to different dimensions and different planets,
I don't feel it should be like white or black.
That's right. We just are. And yeah. And I'm glad that everybody was open to each other's perspectives, and It was good. All right, so we got a shout out. What the girl named Cordelia? She here?
She
here?
She dipped. But she
left.
made some amazing
Her
ass
name.
food earlier.
Her name is that girl from Roxbury. Is that her Instagram name? Okay, y'all follow that girl. Her name is Who is that girl from Roxbury who cooks?
Her food is smacking.
Who is that girl from Roxbury who cooks? Follow her on Instagram.
That
Oh, she got a
banana
YouTube
pudding.
too. So that's her name on Instagram and YouTube. She made us some delicious food. So thank you so much, Cordelia, for the food. We enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this episode of Show and Tell, comment exactly what you enjoyed or what you identified with, and we would love to see it. Other than that, good night, guys.
And stop having mixed babies.
I'm
Y'all are
done.
fucking haters. Y'all
We
are
out.
fucking haters.